Ally PLM.
Hello, my name is Chad Varney, and I'm an application engineer here at Ally PLM Solutions. Thank you for joining us today and welcome you to another session of NX CAM Lunch Bytes. Today we're going to look at customization options in NX CAM. We have several of you on the line with us today, so you'll be in listen-only mode for this session. If you have any questions after this session, you can email those to me at chad.varney@allyplm.com. I want to remind you that we have all of our Lunch Bytes replays available on our website, and you can check those out at allyplm.com. We also have a section where you can give us your suggestions for future Lunch Bytes topics. So today we're going to talk about customizing your NX software. Customizing your system can save you time and money. Customizing NX can prevent repetitive tasks and prevent mistakes. There are several different ways to customize NX. Today we're going to look at some of the customization options geared towards NX CAM and based on the majority of the requests that we get from our manufacturing customers. So we're going to look at customizing the tool library, customizing the user interface, using roles to save our user interface customizations, shortcut keys, and customizing our post-processor list. So let's get started. So let's look at customizing the tool library. First we'll look at what's in the out-of-the-box tool library. Then we'll look at adding a tool to the library, then adding a holder to the library, and then we'll add a tool and holder combination to the library. And lastly we'll look at deleting a tool from the tool library. First let's take a look at what's in the tool library out of the box. Notice we have several class selections. These are basically categories that break down the different types of tools that are in the library. For example, we have end mill non-indexable, end mill indexable, ball mills, chamfer mills, and so on. Let's take a look at the out-of-the-box end mills non-indexable. Notice I have a search criteria dialog. This will limit the tools for what we're specifically searching for. However, I want to see all of the tools, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK to this dialog. Notice we have several out-of-the-box end mills in the tool library. However, we're going to go ahead and create our own end mill and then add our own end mill and holder into the library. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create an end mill, and I'm going to create a 20 millimeter end mill. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a description. The description is going to be my 20 millimeter end mill. And in order to write it to the tool library, I need to open up the library section of the dialog. And I'm going to give it a library reference. This is going to be the reference name in the tool library. So I'm going to call it A1234 underscore 20 millimeter end mill. And I'm simply going to use the export to tool library. I'm going to put this in the non-indexable section. And notice A1234 underscore 20 millimeter end mill was created in the metric tool library. Now let's look at adding a holder to the holder library. So I'm going to first go ahead and create a simple holder. And I'm going to give it a description. And then I'm going to, again, just like I did with the tool library reference, I'm going to give it a holder library reference. I'm going to call this A1234 holder. And I'm going to simply export the holder to the library. A1234 holder was created in the metric holder library. These are now separate entities in the library. So I created a 20mm end mill and then a holder into the library. Again, these are now separate entities. To show that, I'm going to go ahead and retrieve each of those from the library. So I'm going to retrieve that 20mm end mill that I had just created. Remember, I created that in the non-indexable section. Notice here it is listed first. So here is the 20mm end mill. Notice there is not a holder attached to this tool. If I want to bring that holder that I had just created into this tool, I can simply go to the holder tab and use retrieve holder from library. Notice I have the holder listed here that I had created. So now I have the tool and the holder together. Now if I want those to be saved to the library so that those will both open up together as basically a combination, tool and holder, what I can do is save that tool again to the library and it will automatically save the holder along with it. So now I'm going to go to library and export tool to library. It's going to ask, do I want to overwrite it? Yes, I want to replace it. Notice they were both written to the metric library. So now to show this, I'm going to go ahead and delete that tool that we just had open and retrieve it from the library again. I'm going to use retrieve tools from library. Again, the non-indexable end mill. I'm going to select the end mill that I have created. And what you'll notice now is the tool and the holder come in from the library as a combination. So again, you can export the tool itself to the library, the holder itself to the library, or if you have a holder and a tool created, you can export those together so that they will come in from the library as a combination. Next, let's look at deleting a tool out of the tool library. Notice the path to get to the tool library. I went to C drive, program files, Siemens folder, NX10, mock, resource, library, tool, and then the metric folder. So now we're looking at the metric folder. So what I'm going to do is simply right click on the tool database.dat file and open that file. As I scroll through here, of course I could use the search option if I needed to. As I scroll through here, we will see the certain categories for each of the tools in the tool library. And as you can see here, notice I have a data record displayed for the tool that I had created. To remove that tool from the tool library, I'm going to select that line and simply delete that data line. Save the tool database.dat file, and back in NX I'm going to delete this from our NX session. And now if I go to retrieve tools from library, in non-indexable in-mills, notice I do not see the tool that I had just created. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to save tools to the tool library, save holders to the tool library, save them as a combination, and then also delete tools and holders out of the library. So let's look at customizing the user interface. We're going to first look at changing the sizes of icons, adding commands to border bars, creating our own custom tab in the ribbon menu, turning off and on tabs in the resource bar, and then also editing columns. The first thing we notice across the top border bar is that the icons are pretty small. They're a little bit hard to see. So let's take a look at how we change that in NX. I'm going to right click in the ribbon menu and then go to Customize, Icons Tooltips, and notice the top and bottom border bars, the icons are set to extra small. We're going to change that to small, and notice that these icons are a little bit more legible. Still doesn't take up a lot of room in the graphics window, but they are a little bit bigger than what they were before, so that we can display those easily. Next, let's look at adding commands to border bars. So we have the top border bar, and then we also have a right and a left border bar. However, there's no commands in those border bars. So we're going to look at how we add commands to specific border bars. So for example, across the top border bar, maybe I want to add some commands that I normally like to use. I'm going to add some commands out of the Analysis tab in the ribbon menu. So I'm going to go to the Analysis tab, and a couple of these that I typically use would be Measure Angle. So I'm simply going to right click on Measure Angle and add that to the top border bar. Notice now I have Measure Angle. Also, I'm going to get another one out of here, this Simple Diameter. I'm going to right click on that, add that to the top border bar. And then also Simple Radius, add that to the top border bar as well. Next, I'm going to go to the View tab, and I'm going to add Edit Section to the right border bar. Notice it's starting to build a right border bar over here on the right side of our graphics window. And I'm also going to do Clip Section on the right border bar as well. And then for the left border bar, I'm going to add some curve commands that I normally use. I'm going to right click on the line command, add that to the left border bar, arc circle, and then also curve on surface. So good. Now I've got commands on the left border bar, right border bar, and then across the top. And again, these are still available even though I'm clicking through the different tabs in the ribbon menu. These are always going to be there, always ready for me to use. Next, let's look at creating our own custom tab. These are the standard tabs across the top. We're going to look at adding our own custom tab with some of the commands that we frequently use. So to do that, I'm going to right click in the open area in the ribbon menu, go to Customize, go to the Tabs Bars tab, and I'm going to create a new tab. The default name is Custom Tab 1. We'll accept that. And notice I have a new tab that's being created here. And to add commands to our new custom tab, I'm going to go to the Commands tab, All Tabs, and I'm going to get a couple of these from the Home tab. So for example, I want to add Create Tool to my new custom tab. So to do that, I'm simply just going to drag and drop that into my new custom tab. I also want to do Create Operation. I'm going to place that in there as well. And then I'm also want some of the commands that are in the Actions drop down. So I'm going to drag the Actions drop down menu into the new custom tab. And for example here, maybe I only want a couple of these in there and I don't want those to be in the drop down. So for example, I want to use this cut object. I'll simply drag it out by itself. Copy object and paste object. Those are the only three that I want out of this drop down. So now I'm just going to simply delete that drop down out of there. So now I have these as individual commands, again, right here in the custom tab. And the last, I'm going to add two more of these. I'm going to use the edit toolpath. I'm going to add that in there as well. And the gouge check. Again, these are the ones that I frequently use, so you could build your own custom tab. Right, and I also want to make mention that we can turn off and on these tabs over here on the resource bar. So there are several of these that you may not use, so you can actually turn those off and on. One way to do that, for example here, we're going to take this HD 3D Tools and right click on it, and we can actually just hide that tab. So again, to kind of clean this up, so the ones maybe that you don't use or don't use often, you can just simply hide those tabs on the resource bar. And then to bring those back, notice we do have the resource bar options. I can click on the resource bar options, go to tabs, and then turn those back on if I needed to. So notice I turned on the HD 3D back on in the resource bar. And then the last thing I want to cover for our user interface customization is columns. Now I want to look at editing columns in our resource bar. Notice I'm in the program order view and I have a time column, a tool change column, and a path column that shows whether a path has been generated or not. Well, I want to customize this, so what I really want is I want to see a tool change and then also a tool number. So to do that, I'm going to right click in the open area, go to columns, notice the list of columns that I can turn off and on. These are the ones that are on currently. Notice tool number is not on currently. So I'm going to turn tool number on, and it is actually displayed right here. But I want to actually move this over in the list so that I don't have to have this open near as much. I want to see maximize the graphics window. So I want to change that so that it's between tool change, and path. To do that, I'm going to right click in the open area again and go to Properties, Columns tab. Notice I can change the order and toggle off and on certain columns in certain views, so machine tool view, geometry view, and so on. So I'm in the program order view, and I'm simply going to select tool number and then move it up in the list so that it is displayed before the path. I'll apply those changes, and now I have the time, tool change, and then also the tool number displayed. So hopefully that gave you a good idea of some useful user interface changes. Again, we can change the sizes of icons, add commands that we frequently use to border bars, create our own tab, and then maybe clean up our resource bar, and then also edit, add, and remove columns from the resource bar. So let's look at roles in NX. Roles are a great way to save your user interface changes. We're going to look at the standard out-of-the-box roles in NX. We're going to look at creating a new role and then using a custom role that we've saved. Notice I'm on the Roles tab in the resource bar, and there are several out-of-the-box roles that come with NX. Notice we have an Advanced role, Cam Advanced, Cam Express, Essentials, and a Layout role. And then there's also 3 presentation roles as well. So notice I have my user interface customized. I have commands added to the top border bar, commands added to the left border bar, and then commands added to the right border bar as well. I've also got a custom tab. So I want to save these changes and save this as a role in NX. So to do that, I'm going to right click and do a new user role, and I'm going to call this role Ally PLM role, and I'm actually going to browse to a bitmap so that would display as the icon for this role. And of course I can add in a description as well if I wanted to. Alright, so notice I now have my role. It added a user folder with my role created underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and save this role. Now, to show that I can reuse this role later, I'm going to go to the Essentials role. Notice it says that I'm going to lose my customization changes if I haven't saved my role, but I have saved my role. Notice my right border bar, left border bar, and top border bar customizations are no longer displayed because I'm using the Essentials role. So now if I want to go back to my custom role, I'm going to go to the user folder and apply my Ally PLM role. Now my customizations are shown. So again, roles are a great way to save your custom user interface changes. So let's take a look at keyboard shortcuts. First we're going to look at some of the useful out-of-the-box shortcut keys, and then I'll show you where to find a complete list of the out-of-the-box shortcut keys. And then we'll look at customizing the system by creating and using our own shortcut keys. Here's a list of some of the shortcut keys that I like to use, and I'll show you an example of each of these. So let's take a look at using F8. Notice I have my part rotated close to the top view, but not quite exactly on the top view. Of course, I could go into the orientation options and use the top view. Also notice there is a shortcut, Control-Alt-T. As I hover over the top view, you can see the shortcut assigned to top view. The other way to do it is, again, I'm just rotating close to the top view, and then I'm going to hit F8 on the keyboard, and that orients to the nearest view. One other thing that I can do is, notice I have this angled face. I'm going to change my selection filter to face, pick the face, and then hit F8, and it orients to that view, the face that I have selected. Next, we're going to use Control B. Control B is an immediate hide, so I'm going to just select the part and then hit Control B on the keyboard. Notice that hides that solid body. So that's very useful when working in an assembly if you want to hide your clamps and fixtures and things like that. Just simply left click on the component or on the solid body and do a Control B. Next is Control J. I'm going to select the object and then do Control J. This brings up Edit Object Display. This allows me to change the translucency of the part or of the color of the part, things of that nature. Next is Control W. Control W brings up the show and hide menu. So notice I can turn off and on the solid bodies, curves, components, things like that. That's Control W. And the W on the keyboard toggles the WCS off and on. Notice that the MCS and the WCS are in the same location. That can be a little bit confusing in manufacturing, so I like to toggle off that WCS just by hitting the W on the keyboard. And then the last one is, of course, F5 for refresh. So I'm going to use F5 on the keyboard, and notice it refreshes my graphics window. To see a complete list of the out-of-the-box shortcut keys, you can go to Menu, Information, Custom Menu Bar, Shortcut Keys. And this will display a whole list of the out-of-the-box shortcut keys. And to assign our own shortcut keys, we can do that by going into Customize. We're going to go into Customize, Keyboard, and now I'm going to find the command that I want to assign a shortcut key to. So I'm going to scroll through the list, and I'm looking for the Generate command. It's in Operations category, and here's the command, Generate. And notice there is not a current shortcut key, so I'm going to hit the G button on my keyboard, and then I'm going to assign that to the Generate command. Notice I have an operation that is out of date, and I want to generate that operation. So I'm simply going to hit the G on the keyboard, and that will generate that operation. And lastly, we're going to look at editing our post-processor list. We're going to first take a look at the out-of-the-box post-processor list. Then we're going to add one of our own posts to the list. Then we're going to look at editing the list by removing the posts that we don't use. And then we're going to reorder the post list. So as you can see here, I'm going to go to post process. Notice the out-of-the-box list. This is displaying the out-of-the-box post processors, the generic posts that come with NX. To edit this list, I've added a post into the post directory, and I'm going to edit the DAT file that controls this list. That's found here. Notice I'm in C drive, program files, Siemens, NX10, mock, resource, post processor. So notice I'm going to be editing the template underscore post.dat file, and I have added a HOS VF2 post into this folder. So I'm going to edit the template post.dat file, and here you'll see a list of the out-of-the-box posts. So I'm going to take one of those posts and copy it and then paste it at the bottom of the list. So first I'm going to edit what I want the display to be in the list. Basically I'm going to change this to the HOS VF2. So this is what's going to display in the list. It's in the UGII CAM post directory, and I want it to read the HOS VF2 TCL file, and so that I don't make any spelling errors or typos or anything like that, I'm actually going to go up to the actual post and copy the text from there just to make sure. And I'm just going to paste that text so that it looks at the HOS VF2 TCL file. And then also I need to change the def file as well. So again, I'm just going to use paste there. So after I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and save the template post.dat file. Now back in NX, I'm going to go to post process again. And notice at the end of the list I have the HOS VF2. So we've added our post into the post processor list. Now to remove posts from the post list, we will go into that same template file and for example, if I want to remove all of the wire EDM posts and these out of the box posts, I simply just put a pound sign in front of them, and that comments those out. I don't actually have to remove them. I actually can just comment these individual posts out. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment out the first 4, and then to reorder the list, all I have to do is simply just copy my HOS post and paste it at the beginning of the list, and again save the file. Now when I go to post process, notice I have the HOS VF2 up at the top, and then the out of the box posts that I commented out are no longer displayed in the list. Well, that's all the time that we have for this session of NX CAM Lunch Bytes. I hope you're able to get a better idea of how to customize your NX CAM system, and hopefully you learn some things that will make you more productive. If you have any questions about today's Lunch Bytes session, please email those to me at chad.varney@liplm.com. I want to thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
LIPLM.